Welcome to Independent Opinion. We're one of the newest features here on loudandeye.com, and thanks for joining us today. To my left is Dave D'Onofrio, and I'm Bob Steer. So Dave, what are we starting with today?
Well, we're starting with the little piggies, Bob. This little piggy went to the market. This little piggy got swine flu.
Ooh.
Swine flu. Presidential Advisory Group this past week said that there's a potential for about 90,000 deaths from the swine flu this season. And, you know, understandably, that's got people a little freaked out. We've gone through already one scare this past spring of the swine flu, and you see Loudoun County schools and others, many others, preparing for this fall. Bob, what's going on here? Is this something to be really concerned about, or is it a big tempest in a teapot?
I think we may have a bit of the tempest in the teapot from the standpoint of that this is the flu, and so what should you do with the flu? Well, you know, wash your hands. If your kid's sick with a fever and a cough, take them to the doctor, get them checked out, don't send them to school, and be careful.
Right. You know, I mean, some of these statistics that are coming out are just utterly mind-boggling. 60 to 120 million people will get symptoms, 90 million may seek medical attention, up to 1.8 million hospitalized. But, you know, when you really look at it, the CDC actually said this right after the Presidential Advisory Group came out with this. I don't necessarily think it's going to be that much worse than a typical flu season. It's a different strain. It's going to happen, and it's going to hit before the flu virus vaccines, come out. But I always wonder about these. Like, is this the 24-hour news cycle ginning something up here and making people a little bit more nervous than they need to be?
Well, I think we saw a little bit of that last spring. The vice president certainly contributed it to a little bit,
right?
And that type of thing. But again, it's sort of like, folks, take care of yourselves. That's what we should do. I mean, one of the biggest things they were saying is that, you know, should we give, you know, shots to the young and the old and things like that? Well, now they're coming out and saying, folks, we need to give it to the kids who are in school because they come home and give it to mom and dad, and mom and dad get sick, and that's where the problem lies. But you know, again, this is one of those things of like, folks, take care of yourselves and don't get overly concerned.
Right. And I don't want to minimize the health risk. I mean, it's certainly serious, but I just don't want us to get into a full-blown panic before we really know what we're dealing with. So Bob's exactly right. Be careful, wash your hands, wash your hands, wash your hands, and go see a doctor if you're not feeling well.
Yeah, most definitely. Well, this is my favorite subject for this week.
Best story this week.
Best story this week, that, you know, the Disney company acquired Marvel Comics. Full disclosure, I'm a huge Spider-Man fan. So,
well, I mean, how can you go wrong with any of the Marvel comics? The Avengers, Thor, the Hulk. I mean, yeah. And we're going to do Dungeons and Dragons later too.
Yeah, and Dave performs twice nightly and three times on Sunday, and we'll move on. But this is quite a bombshell because nobody was expecting it. It'll be interesting to see how this Disney appears to be on the move, like they acquired Pixar several years ago, and have done apparently very well with that. Next is Marvel. I think we'll see more of the Marvel comics out in the marketplace, even though we see a great deal already. But you know, the mouse is quite the acquiring spirit right going on. But you know, but that also begs the question of, well, who wins, the mouse or Spider-Man?
Well, I mean, I think certainly the Spider-Man, you know, with all his extra abilities, you know, Mickey Mouse may make you giggle and laugh and captivate your 4-year-old's attention, but I think Spider-Man takes the mouse. The amazing thing is that Marvel has has a catalog of like 3,000 characters. You know, and most people are most familiar with the Hulk and Spider-Man and now the X-Men. But I think Disney really can tap into some of these really cool secondary, tertiary characters. Good use of the word there.
That's 25 cent. Thank you. 25-cent word.
And the interesting thing is how they're going to use it in the parks. They are limited somewhat in Orlando because of Universal's relationship with Marvel. But out in Anaheim, I mean, I think it's going to be full-blown, you know, Spider-Man and the Hulk rides, and
everything.
I love Iron Man.
It's just going to be so much fun.
You can't go wrong. So, here's my question: is Michael Eisner? Now, I know he's not currently the CEO of Disney, but is Michael Eisner going to start doing cameo appearances in movies like Stan Lee does in all of his movies? Now, that'd be fun.
That'd be fun, but actually, it'd be Robert Iger.
Robert Iger, I know. Yeah. Michael Eisner, Robert Iger.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I'm stuck in 1989.
And at last, the truth comes out. But anyway, the next thing that we have to talk about is the government and what's going on with the banks.
We made some money.
We made some money.
We made a 15% rate of return on some of those, some of the money that we've given to the banks as they've started to pay back. Now, I mean, I think that's pretty good. We're collecting about $4 billion, 15% rate of return. But the trick here is that we haven't dealt with AIG yet, General Motors, Chrysler, Fannie and Freddie Mac. So that 15% right now sounds great, but you know, down the line, are we going to make money on this? is it anybody's intention to really have made money on it? And is it a good thing for the government and, I guess, the taxpayers to make some money off private industry?
Well, I think in this case it is, because certainly if you're going to invest in something, if you want to see a reasonable rate of return, for lack of a better term, it's no small thing. It's also not, one of the other things with this, when we read it this week, is that it was unexpected. Nobody expected that this would happen.
The Obama administration got a calculation incorrect. Weird.
I know, surprise.
Wild.
I know you're
They
shocked.
got some smart people over
But
there.
it's also a good thing.
No, it is a good thing. I'll take this rounding error in our favor this time. I will. I am surprised. I think it's a good thing that maybe, it helped buttress these companies when they really needed it. I think you're seeing the recovery happen. As we come over here, you continue to see signs of improvement in the economy. I think this is another sign of improvements in the economy. And hopefully what's still laying out there in the future, the AIGs and the other things, won't be a big drain on the Treasury and on the budget, and we'll be moving forward. So, I'll take. Trust me, there are a lot of people out in the stock market and investors out there who take 15% in a heartbeat.
Don't look a gift horse in the mouth.
Don't look a gift horse in the mouth.
We got the money. That's a good thing. And also now the president's no longer the CEO of those banks.
Well, which is nice.
Which is nice.
Which is nice.
It's a good thing. Okay. And now we turn to our next segment, which we call Virginia's for Lovers, where we look at the Commonwealth and local issues. And today, the big news is Bob McDonnell, Republican candidate for governor, decided to have his thesis come out. I don't think he decided.
I'm not sure it was his decision. I'm
like,
sure maybe somebody in the Deeds campaign had something to do with it.
Yeah, that's true. And 20 years ago, he wrote a. I almost want to call it an expose, but that is not the right term either. But it's his thesis about 25% word there, about how he would govern, and what his philosophy was, for lack of a better term. So, the question for you, Dave, is like, are we still in 1989 or?
Yeah, we talked the last show about Craig Deeds' campaign hitting the reset button, and I think this is a pretty hard hit of that reset button and dumping this out there. For those of you who haven't read up on this, Bob McDonnell in 1989, while he was in getting his master's,
Regent
University had put in as a paper about the family values and how the Republicans should cater to this. And some of those are potentially outside the mainstream. Some of them aren't. But the Deeds campaign and the Democrats have as they should in a campaign, really jumped on and tried to play it.
They did.
And to push the belief that somehow McDonnell is outside the mainstream for most folks. And, I think the bottom line is Bob McDonnell's record over the last 20 years and the way he's handled it over the last 24 to 72 hours really shows that he is not outside the mainstream. I mean, his record is strong on middle-of-the-road, mainstream conservative issues, and the way he's handled this head-on over this past couple of days, I think, is really a testament to the kind of leader that he is.
But Dave, I think what we're going to really see, though, is that, especially in this debate the debates that are going to come up this fall, is that if this is truly how he plans on governing the state, the Commonwealth of Virginia, it is a concern because he had some, issues about women. He brought up some issues about family values, and sort of saying that other folks are outside the mainstream, and that's what and the Deeds campaign was was a good point for them to bring up and to really take a look at that because one of the things we learn is that if you run for whatever office you run for, your life is and your thoughts, your philosophy is key.
I hear you on that, but I think it's really hard for the Deeds campaign to try to throw this out there and saying Bob's outside the mainstream when his record, 105 pieces of legislation introduced when he was in the assembly, 92 were enacted, and Craig Deeds voted in favor of those bills 98% of the time. So Bob's record is showing that he and Deeds are perhaps a little bit more in line than the Deeds campaign is trying to make on this thesis. And as Bob McDonnell said, this was 20 years ago and he's evolved over time. And so I think it will be an issue. I think the McDonnell campaign has reacted well to it, and the Deeds campaign and the Democrats will try to continue to throw gasoline on the fire.
Well, that'll be interesting because basically what we're saying is that it's going to be an issue of evolution.
An issue of evolution. That's very highbrow.
Thank you.
Nice.
Thank you.
Moving on, lawsuits in the toll road. Well, we talked about tolls last week, and sure enough, somebody went out and filed a lawsuit. The Dulles Corridor Users Group is suggesting that much like, I guess it's been a year and a half now, When groups sued the Commonwealth for giving taxing authority to the Northern Virginia Regional Transit Group, they're saying that these tolls, the increase in tolls, is basically a tax given to an authority that doesn't have taxing rights. So, I mean, where are we on this, Bob? I mean, is it a tax? Is it not a tax? Is it something that we're just going to have to suck up and deal with?
Unfortunately, I think it's the last, and that's the sad thing about it in one sense. I am concerned about having to pay more money to use the toll road. But we also sort of told MWA that that's something they can do.
Right,
We said, guys, we want you to build the Metro Rail, we want to do these things. Well, unfortunately, it does take money.
It does.
It does.
You
So
know,
where are you going to get the revenue?
That cement and that steel does not come for
Bigger
free.
things. And given this time also of economic issues that are going on and so on, it's something we've asked for.
Right.
So it's a little bit like, okay, you're upset because we're doing what you sort of said, and it's like, that's an issue.
I mean, I think it's a really interesting question here. What, you know, as we continue to tackle our transportation issues here in Northern Virginia, what is a fee? What is a tax? What is, you know, I mean, I can't imagine how a toll is necessarily considered a tax. I mean, you do have options. You are not obliged to go on that toll road. So, I mean, I can see the differences between what we went through with that lawsuit a couple of years ago on the transportation bill and this one. Nobody is saying you have to go on the toll road. Nobody's saying you have to go on the greenway. So, you know, I'm no lawyer, but I don't see how this is a tax and how this lawsuit stands up. And I worry about it just slowing down the Metro.
Well, the other lawsuits have failed that
Yes,
they've tried before, and
Yeah.
now the judge has said this, that, you know, that this one as well. So we're sort of like in one of those places of like, folks, let's get going. Let's get this thing built.
Isn't it just time to get this thing done?
Well, I think we all feel that. I think this is one of those, you know, we occasionally will have issues that we say that are about party. I think we're there.
Yeah,
This
maybe.
is one of those, let's get it done.
Maybe.
Anyway, our next segment we call We're Loco. Now,
Ooh, yes, we are.
many of us, our colleagues would definitely say that to about Dave and myself, but actually we're talking about Loudoun County. And today, our issues, the big issue for us was that we found that the papers are talking about the back to school for Loudoun County, that we haven't hit our AYP, which
Yeah.
is...
Adequate yearly progress.
Very
I almost
good.
failed my
Very
AYP.
good. Adequate yearly
Sorry.
progress.
I
Very
didn't-
good. You did it.
Anyway, the county as a whole met its adequate yearly progress, but there were 17 schools this year that didn't meet these standards. And that's up from 3 last year. You know, No Child Left Behind set these rigid standards and the testing, and is it a concern, do you think, for Loudoun County parents? Well, I probably should answer that own question myself,
I was
since
gonna say,
I've got
this
2
is-
in the system.
Right.
I don't think it's a big deal. My school now, this is the second time my boys' school in 3 years hasn't met AYP. I don't think for a second that Tolbert Elementary isn't a great school for my kids. I think there are a lot of things we can improve, but focusing entirely on this one test, to me, is, I think, one of the shortcomings of No Child Left Behind. I see where it was trying to go and what it's trying to accomplish, but I worry seeing the side of what the has to happen from the administration down to the teachers down to the kids, that maybe too much focus is going on to these tests.
I think part of it is, are we seeing progress in these schools? I would assume that we are.
I'm feeling it. I think my friends and neighbors feel it.
Then we're probably getting what we want, in the sense, you know, you're never going to have perfection. I mean, we're never going to achieve that all the schools in the nation are all at the same level, all the same thing. I think as we might even agree, I mean, you as a parent would certainly talk about the importance of parental involvement in the schools.
Absolutely.
Every kid's got to do their homework, all those things. Those are all part of it. So I think that's, we'd have to take a look at. But I think it also then goes back to, okay, we take a look at what works, what's
doesn't
missing,
work,
what
right,
doesn't work, what's
right.
missing in that, and
Yeah.
you know, what can we do to help those 17 schools?
Well, clearly, I mean, that's the one side of the coin. The other side of the coin is that for the second straight year, Loudoun County's SAT scores have gone up. 15 points this year, or excuse me, 2 years ago, 18 points this year. That's 33 points in 2 years. I mean, that's a pretty.
Outstanding
That was
progress.
math there, by the way.
That was very good.
That was adequate yearly progress for me. They're clearly doing something right. I mean, so, you know, on one end, there's some concerns, and then on the other end, you're seeing success. We're above the national average, well above the national average on the SAT, above the Virginia average. So there are a lot of issues in the schools. No school is perfect, but I'm not that worried about the AYP issue, and hope it doesn't become too large of a focus for the administration.
True. Okay, next, folks, it's our section that we call Rock, Paper, Scissors. And today, the big topic is a birthday party for the internet. It's actually 40 years old.
40
I believe
years
it's
old.
this week it's 40 years old.
Yeah, it is.
And the reason that's a big deal for us is that here in Northern Virginia, we're in the crossroads of the internet. With AOL, which is basically now coming back from New York after being bought, merging with Time Warner, it's now coming back to be its own company in Northern Virginia, and also Verizon, which is a hub for some huge percentage of the internet traffic globally. It's just, it's just amazing. So, Dave, the question for us is this a good thing? Is this not such a good thing? Or is it just, Al Gore does not get near the credit he deserves?
Al Gore never gets the credit that he deserves because, the genius behind the environmental movement and the internet, unbelievable, regardless of the Al Gore jokes. The internet is a great thing. I can't imagine living my life and doing my business without the internet. You could be anywhere, do anything, figure out any information out there, couple of clicks on Google or any of your ask.coms, anything like that. It's a fantastic thing. I can't imagine the world without it. But in the same sense, when I pick up my handheld at 12:30 at night and I see an email and I feel compelled to respond to it because somebody knows I got this BlackBerry and that they're going to want a response at 12:30 at night, I can see the bad part of it. But I don't see where we make progress that we've made over the last, certainly the last 10 years as the internet has exploded without this amazing invention of 40 years ago.
And that's one of those things, who knew? It's almost a Jules Verne quality to it. That look at where we are. So anyway, but we're going to avoid the Al Gore jokes as Dave promised, more or less, and everything else. What else do you think that we should do about this?
I think now the movement is now to find ways for universal access. We see even here in Loudoun County this crossroads of the internet. Western Loudoun County is still struggling to find a reliable internet connection. And so I think the next move is to move it out into the rural communities, out into the inner cities, places where people aren't necessarily connected now, to give it universal coverage for everyone. But happy birthday, internet! It's come a long way in 40 years. From a couple of professors sharing information to me sending Twitter updates in the middle of independent opinion, which I haven't done yet. I think the NFL commissioner wouldn't allow me to do that.
He'd be upset about it. Well, one last word on the internet is that Tom Friedman said that, if you're above 60, you use your computer and you know how to use it. If you're above 40, you need your computer. If you're above 20, you need connectivity. And if you're 16, you need your Xbox, which I think, Dave, you need your Xbox.
I want my Xbox or my Wii. I need it.
There we go.
That leads us into the next segment, the next part, which is Dulles Rail. The judge this week has said that the tax district down in Fairfax, to allow for the Dulles Rail funding, is legal and is okay for them to proceed. So is Dulles Rail long overdue? Is it worth the effort? Or is it just a road to nowhere, Bob? Is it just making a mess down there and not going anywhere?
Well, I think it's going to make a mess, because anytime you have construction on this scale, it's going to make a mess. But I think it's also something that Loudoun County, Northern Virginia, is long overdue for. And especially as traffic increases, even with all the economic stuff going on, we know traffic is still getting worse, not better.
It is.
And so what solutions do we have? Well, Dulles Rail will be huge for this. But the story's not done. People are still going to be upset about it. It's going to be changing a lot of things.
It is. It's the first time that I've really driven this past weekend down in Route 7 between the toll road and the Beltway, and it is an awful mess. It's going to be it's an impressive job going on right now. And plus you have, don't forget, the HOT lanes closer to the Beltway. It's going to be worth it. It's going to, I hope, really help Loudoners and folks in Western Fairfax to get into the city, to get cars off the road. But there's a part of me that thinks that it may be a little bit of a road to nowhere. Is it going to be used as much as we anticipate? Is it going to take that many cars off the road? And I have some concerns that as you do a cost-benefit analysis of how expensive this is going to be, that is it at the end of the day going to be really worth it? Because I still think that light rail is a better option for a lot of folks in this area than the heavy rail of the metro system.
But we're also committed now, so I think we're on the path.
we are pod committed at this point, aren't we?
And so we're going on.
We are. All right. Well, now it's Labor Day, isn't it, Bob? It's a great time of the year. It's the end of the summer. What do you got for people to do this weekend?
Well, I'm going to do something a little different and say that, not so much Labor Day, but this fall we have a governor's race coming up. As
we
you know,
do?
we do.
We should get out and vote.
It's a big deal, and that's one of the reasons we're bringing it up, is that actually it'll be October 6th. The Loudoun County Chamber of Commerce is going to have an event at the National Conference Center at Lansdowne from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. And we're asking everybody, and actually Dave agreed, he'll support me on this, is that to ask everyone to get out and see Bob McDonald and Craig Dees debate to their best competence, hopefully, for both of them. They'll bring their A game to Loudoun County, and we get a chance to hear what they have to say, because this is going to affect the future of the county and the state for the next 4 years. And it's no small thing. So we really want you to get out there and not only vote, but also, if you can, come to the Chamber of Commerce on, not come to the Chamber of Commerce, come to the Chamber of Commerce's event on the 6th.
I think that's going to be a great opportunity to hear right from the proverbial horse's mouth what's what. Well, folks, enjoy the last few days of summer. As the weather this week's shown, it's fall is right around the corner. This weekend, I'm going to be out coaching my boys' soccer team again, but I want folks to go out there and hit their local farmers market. Believe it or not, we've got some great produce around here. There's a market in Leesburg at the Virginia Village Shopping Center. And down in Brambleton, too, there's one at the Brambleton Town Center. So I would really encourage folks to go out, buy local products, and hit these farmers markets and support Loudoun County farmers in these markets.
And also hit the one in Percival. A friend of mine runs that.
Thank you. I
It's
knew I was
absolutely
missing
fantastic.
one. Yep,
So
Percival as well.
do that. So
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. Our Independent Opinion, the latest feature here at theloudandeye.com. For Bob Steer, I'm David D'Onofrio. Thanks for joining us today, and come back next week. Thanks.